All right. Hi. Yeah, my name is Aliaksandr Herasimenka. I'm a PhD student at the University of Westminster in London. I do research in communication. However, I have also a degree in political science. So I try to combine those two disciplines together at the Communication and Media Research Institute. And I'm going to talk about digital engagement and try to compare cases of Belarus in Ukraine. So my research comes from two different studies conducted separately with the same methodology several years ago, first in Belarus, then in Ukraine, and well, I tried just to compare main results of them, not all. Or I would be happy to discuss other things related to the topic. First, of course, I'm very happy that we are all here know something about Belarus, and I don't need to present you with background of events because they are also pretty different. But we're also a bit different in the world if you compare, for instance, how people in Belarus or Ukraine or Russia use internet. Here is the map of the most popular web platforms or social networks that are used by people around the world. As you see, most of people around the world use Facebook. However, we live in a bit different society, and it makes people like Joe Van Dyke call Belarus or Russia or China different platform societies. Because as you see, like in Belarus, VK actually is the most popular social network. Second, also in Ukraine, it used to be Odnoklassniki when I was doing my research. So practices of engagement online is a bit different, and that makes me interested in that to look also in Ukraine, where we can observe pretty similar penetration of the internet, and penetration technologies, also practices of usage of those platforms and sometimes of governmental control of them, and also how traditional media system is arranged, especially at periods I'm looking at. So here I just mentioned a few theoretical debates that previously were mostly concentrated on how people engage online in terms of promoting democracy. It was nowadays those debates are considered pretty simplistic because nowadays we try to look at specific categories like practices, strategies, and tactics of those who try to engage online, try to build their online campaigns, try to first at least disseminate any messages using the internet, then maybe build some communities online, and maybe transfer those communities into offline realm, organizing some collective, or as they say now, connective actions, like Bennett and Sedesberg call them. Those connective actions that are organized using modern technologies have their different distinguished characteristics, like looser connections between people, more personalized agenda, and less important of ideologies. In general, organization of this sort of digital engagements becomes nowadays easier and maybe even more effective. There is no need of big organizations in these camps, and in general, those groups became more flexible. When I was looking at two cases of Ukraine and Belarus, I was looking first of all at leaders of different online groups that tried to organize any online campaign. I was looking at their practice strategies and perceptions, using methods of semi-structured interviews and analyzing of their documents and participant observation online in order to look at Belarus during the period of 2011-2013 and Ukraine 2013-2014. So as you see, I finally covered 14 different civic groups. They have a quite different agenda in terms of Belarus because you see their agenda were ranging from people who try to do something with nature, with bird watching, up to people who try to basically organize riots and overthrow the regime in case of a group revolution in social networks in Belarus that were very active during 2011. In case of Ukraine, I was looking specifically at the Euromaidan groups that organized something I call communicative non-political infrastructure of the Euromaidan. So those people were not really associated with any political party during the Euromaidan. However, they were very active in spreading the message of the Euromaidan, building its image and how it looked finally online and basically online. Because traditional media in Ukraine at that time was not really free. So I was looking at 4 different main categories: professional networks of activists, perceptions of role of traditional media, digital divide, and internet censorship. I'm going to talk about them right now. So first, digital divide. The only thing which makes me feel that people there in Ukraine and Belarus considered it similar, because what is digital divide? What we consider under this term? It is basically penetration of internet or penetration of skills that people have and need to use those platforms. So if you have internet, you don't know really sometimes how to access particular platforms. So what's apparently happened in Ukraine and Belarus, with pretty similar level of penetration of internet during the periods I was talking about, though Belarus was always quite ahead of it. Digital activists had pretty similar attitude towards how people are going to use their platforms, and in general, they didn't care much about those people who were not connected already. So they were working mostly with those who are already online, thinking that they have enough possible participants. Second thing, professional networks and experience of activists. Apparently, Belarusian activists I was looked at were not really, didn't have any big professional experience in terms of engagement and using those platforms professionally, while Ukrainian activists before the Euromaidan, they came mostly from commercial firms or non-profit organizations, where they actually did things that they finally started doing during the Euromaidan. So they joined the protests and those small groups of the Euromaidan social movements as already quite established professionals with very good networks of people around them. And moreover, they knew how to transfer those networks or social capital they had into followers, into online realm. Other interesting note about Euromaidan groups, non-political Euromaidan groups, that women played very important role. Almost all leaders of communication of those important groups, like the main one was just a Facebook page of the Euromaidan that had more than 250,000 followers, were women. So they were pretty noticeable, and not like those who know, who we know, who represented Euromaidan, like political leaders, or those who were fighting on streets on later stages of the process. Finally, perception of traditional media. Under traditional media, we normally understand TV news, papers that, as I noted, were quite not free during periods I was looking at, and apparently for Belarusian activists, traditional media were much more important than for Ukrainians. They believe that, Belarusian activists believe that the last stage of their campaign online should be somehow featured and in the end somehow covered by any kind of traditional media in Belarus, and better, it should be governmental media. So they really hoped for an article on Sovietskaya Belarus, for instance, about them, while Ukrainian activists didn't think it's so important for them to be covered by traditional media. Internet censorship was very interesting because, well, I was looking at Belarus up to moment 2013, and that moment maybe there was not so much cases of censorship. However, in general, Belarusian activists didn't think that it was so important for them. They didn't experience many attempts to censor them online. However, they feared of physical persecution in offline world. It was a big contrast to Ukrainian activists who actually experienced it, especially in cases of Russian-managed social platforms like Odnoklassniki or VK, which currently actually are owned by only one big Russian IT corporation. Some of pages, for instance, that were based on Odnoklassniki and managed by Ukrainian Euromaidan activists were closed by Russian-managed social networks. It means that Russian censorship combined with lack of knowledge, because those activists from Ukraine didn't know much about them apparently. They knew how to use Facebook mostly. But, so no knowledge and Russian censorship could affect chances of identification of Russian-speaking Eastern Ukrainians with the protest movement in the end. However, it's a bit different story, not concerning comparison between Belarus and Ukraine. What concerns me now is that if you can see that basically out of those 4 categories, only one approach to only one of them is pretty similar in both cases. In other cases, we see that Ukrainians were much more aware of troubles they are waiting for and opportunities they can experience. So concluding, I just want to say that inner characteristics of social media platforms and other internet tools combined with successful digital engagement into the Euromaidan movement in Ukraine help activists in Ukraine to succeed. However, in Belarusian case, in contrast, a lack of qualification, high level of reliance on traditional media, and underestimation of the internet censorship would be partly responsible for the problematic nature of digital engagement in Belarus. Thank you.